Welcome everyone to the business meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is October 15th, 2024. And we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda for today. Do I have a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve and today's agenda for October 15th, 2024. With the exception of removing item 7D, board roundtable continuation if necessary.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Board members Nancy Tiggy and Holly Nybar will be joining us shortly. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Park Lane Elementary Principal Justin Jeffrey will be presenting that along with school highlights.
There's a cute little button.
Oh, that button. All right, I got it. Please repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, I'm Justin Jeffrey, principal at Park Lane Elementary School, and I'm excited for this opportunity to share a little bit about Park Lane. When looking at bullet points about Park Lane on an advertisement postcard a couple years ago, I noticed things like high student achievement, fantastic PTA, great neighborhood school, but I landed on the gem of Canyons District. The gem of Canyons District didn't end up printed on the postcard. It might have been a little presumptuous of me, but it pretty much sums up how I feel about Park Lane Elementary. Park Lane is a beloved neighborhood school with a class of teachers that consistently has risen to meet student needs and promote strong academic achievement, all while striving to educate the whole child. I've had the joy of being the principal at Park Lane Elementary for several years now, and I've been able to see Park Lane teachers grow and master their craft. We have very little turnover. Our teachers are strong and capable, and as a result, we've seen fantastic academic growth. From being in the middle of the pack of Canyons Elementary schools, years ago, I've been able to be a part of Park Lane rising to its current stellar level of achievement. Park Lane's RISE scores are currently among the highest in the district. In fact, did you know that Park Lane's RISE scores are the highest behind the two schools with SALTA programs? Director of Research and Assessment, Dr. Hal Sanderson, recently said Park Lane has had some great RISE achievement results again in 2024. You had great results from your fifth grade team. They had the highest RISE 2024 results district-wide in ELA, math, and science. All three. Wow. He further says your fourth grade team had the highest achievements in results in math and science, and you had some great gains from 2023 to 2024 in third grade math and fifth grade science. End quote. This is especially exceptional considering that Park Lane boasts an integrated student body with our special ed population at nearly 27%. We have 3 accommodated core curriculum classes and see strong growth with students at all levels. I couldn't be prouder of my team. In addition to our academic success, Park Lane is bolstered by a strong PTA and wonderful community involvement. We've been in the news and newspaper multiple of times in recent years for community experiences like our neighborhood fun run fundraiser, which recently raised a record $25,000 for the school. We've been able to involve our vertical team and have student athletes from Jordan High School help us every year. They have helped all of our students, including aiding students in wheelchairs or with other disabilities, complete the course. At another time this year, we had the Sandy City Mayor visit us and teach us more about our civic duty. We have a wonderful community. Plus, we're heavily involved in the arts, hosting several arts assemblies, having a large annual community arts night, organizing a Panther Studios choir and school orchestra, as well as producing our own school play every other year. Park Lane has had great success while educating the whole child and ensuring that they have wonderful elementary experience. Our staff loves students and goes above and beyond to help them succeed in multiple ways. I can't tell you how many times we've heard from parents, volunteers, or visitors about the wonderful environment we have created at Park Lane. And nearly every substitute has voiced that Park Lane is one of their favorite schools to sub for. Our wonderful school seems to fly under the radar in some senses, and yet we are able to do so much with limited resources and attention. With all these accolades, it's clear that Park Lane is a hidden gem in our great Canyons district.
Okay, thank you so much. We love to hear about our schools and amazing things happening. And please pass on our thanks to your teachers for those RISE scores. That's awesome. So
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Canyon Strong Student Recognitions, and that will be presented by Jeff Haney, Director, and Kirsten Stewart, Associate Director of Communications.
Thank you, President Schill, for this time that the board grants us during board meeting to recognize the achievements of students in Canyon School District who are showing the world that they are truly Canyon strong in their pursuit of excellence. Those who are mentioned tonight will receive letters of commendation from members of the Board of Education and the superintendent. Now, first, October just isn't a month of fun and fright, the month of Halloween. It's also the month that we celebrate our principals. It's National Principal Appreciation, and you can see right there one of our fantastic principals. That's a good example of Brian Rude celebrating his students. That's at this last Saturday's middle school intramurals cross-country race. And we affectionately call that race the Mike Soroyce Invitational after one of our former school performance directors. He's there high-fiving some of the students who won from Butler Elementary School. Butler Middle School. So Saturday, as Principal Rude says, was definitely a great day to be a Bruin. At the yearly middle school race, Butler Middle's girls and boys teams walked away with the first place trophies. You can see some of the photos there of the athletes who got some of the awards and some of those very familiar faces of the students who races, particularly to Mr. Edel. His son is right there in the middle. And Mr. Wilcox, his son, is right there, running like the wind, right, Liam? Yeah. So we had hundreds of students participate in this race, and the Jordan High Stadium was packed with parents and supporters who were celebrating all of the students who participated. So we had teams from Draper Park finishing second, and Albion finished third in the girls' races. Albion and Indian Hills finished second and third in the boys' races. A full list of the winners is on the district Facebook page and Instagram page. So congratulations to all of the students who competed, and a big thanks to all of their coaches and their parents who supported them throughout the season. Saturday also was a great day for the Hillcrest Huskies. At the last board meeting, I said that perhaps tonight we would be celebrating the first state championships for Canyons District of the school year, and our students certainly did not disappoint. This year's girls tennis team at Hillcrest made district history. In fact, we had two individual state champions from Hillcrest this year. They are the very first girls tennis individual championships in Canyons district history from Hillcrest. So congratulations to the students who won those state championships. The first singles championship was won by a student named Fabiana Gonzalez, and her sister won the second singles championship. That's Luciana. They did fantastic. We also had a third singles player reach the finals, and a doubles team reached the semifinals, pushing their total score to almost the top. They took second place overall in the state in 4A girls tennis. So congratulations to the Hillcrest High tennis team and Coach Creighton Chun for a record-making season. And the news keeps coming from Hillcrest. Our next honoree is the theater troupe from Hillcrest. They won the first place sweepstakes in their division at the 48th annual Shakespeare competition held each year at Southern Utah University. It is the 5th year in a row that Hillcrest has won the top award in the acting category in their division. It's the 11th in 15 years that Hillcrest has won first place sweepstakes in acting. But the wins from Fort Canyon School District didn't stop there. Corner Canyon High theater students won first place sweepstakes in their division, and the Charter Choirs won second place sweepstakes in their division in the music part of the competition. Brighton Theater won second place sweepstakes in the acting division, and Hillcrest won the overall Stage Tech Olympics trophy with students from Alta, Hillcrest, Brighton, and Corner Canyon winning individual Stage Tech events. Now, while we're on the topic of students being on the stage, next month, all of our high schools will applaud the start of our annual fall musicals. This year, both Alta and Brighton are producing Matilda. Corner Canyon is doing Joseph, an Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Hillcrest is staging Hadestown, and Jordan High is doing my personal all-time favorite, The Drowsy Chaperone. In the coming days, we'll have more information about the shows, dates, and times on the district website. And if history is any indication, you won't want to miss these shows. They're fantastic. The next honoree has made quite an athletic feat, and that it has gone viral for all of the best reasons. This Canyon student's once in a lifetime 132-yard shot on a golf course was shown live on ESPN and in front of his coach and his idol, Utah famed golfer Tony Finau. For those of us who golf badly, like myself, there's nothing that would cause more nerves than knowing hundreds of thousands of people were watching me live on television as I stepped up to take a swing at that tee. But Emery Johnson must have ice in his veins, because when he took a swing, he got his very first hole-in-one. This hole-in-one was on the 5th hole at the 2024 National Car Rental PGA Junior League Championships in Texas. And this feat has garnered attention from USA Today, Golf Digest, and was featured as one of the very top spots on Sports Center's top 10 plays in sports this week. It is pretty amazing. If you haven't seen it, you can go to the district website, and we have a link to the video there. Check it out, and like me, be very humbled by this 12-year-old's golf game. We can see here the enthusiastic crowd clad in red and black. Today, we cheered Alta High School's unified soccer team. They made it all the way to the championships in that tournament. Now, the cheering came from the stands at America First Field, the home of our very own Major League Soccer team, Real Salt Lake. That's where our unified students got to compete in those finals. The Alta team battled through an entire game and lost by 1 goal in a shootout. So a big shout out to all of our unified teams and their coaches for working so hard this season. Now, fall sports and activities are in full swing, and state tournaments and championships are well underway. Today is the second day of the 6A golf tournament. Corner Canyon was neck and neck with a rival school for the state title. I haven't yet been able to see if they announced the winners there. Last year, we had the state individual winner, and when I looked, he was close. He was in second place after the first round. So we'll be able to provide that information in future board meetings. So congratulations to all of our golfers who had amazing seasons, and fingers crossed that we had fantastic finishes in the last days. Brighton High also were in the top 10 after the first day. So let's hope they climbed up those rankings on the very last day of play. Brighton and Alta soccer teams battled it out today at 4 o'clock. And we also had Corner Canyon Soccer playing in the second round of the 6A tournament. They played against Pleasant Grove, and we'll provide more information about the winners and their advancement through the brackets in future meetings. The state cross country meets are October 29th and 30th. The week after that, our volleyball teams hit the court in their state brackets, and then the football teams vie for state titles November 21st after semifinals on 14th and the 15th. It would be great to see our teams on the field at Rice Eccles one more time. Congratulations to all of our winners, and even those who just suited up. It's about learning about yourself, the growth in skills and talents, confidence built, and of course, the friends, and the mentors made along the way who will be a part of our students' lives forever. President Schill, thank you for the time that you've given us today to present this information about the students in Canyon School District who show the world that they are Canyon strong. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've now come to the patron comment portion of our meeting. The board often designates time in meetings to listen to the patrons of the district. Patron comment time is limited to residents and taxpayers of Canyon's district, students and parents of students, and current employees of the district. Patrons may provide board members with written documents. These documents must be submitted to the board secretary, she's right over there, at the meeting, or emailed to the Office of Public Communications by noon of the day following the board meeting. Tonight, individuals will be given 3 minutes, and those representing groups will be given 5 minutes. Comments made during patron comment time are part of the public record. It is the board's practice to listen and take notes during patron comments. The Board of Education does not discuss matters that are not on the meeting's agenda, nor engage in public comment on individual students to protect their privacy or employee issues. If a patron wants to comment on a district employee's character, professional competence, or mental or physical health, the board requests that those comments be submitted to the board in writing. However, if the patron determines to verbally comment on those personnel issues, the comments need to be civil and refrain from personal attacks, insults, defamatory, or slanderous comments about an individual. Parents are welcome to comment on their own child's experience in the district schools. However, speakers may not discuss other children by name in order to respect the student's privacy. Comments must be age appropriate, considering children who may be present or viewing online. The Board of Education values input on all sides of issues. To maintain decorum and respect, we please ask that those in attendance refrain from applause or other demonstrations during the patron comment time, as well as throughout the meeting. Okay, tonight we have, looks like 8 people that have signed up to speak. And the first person is Whitney Hardman. So if you can just come up to the microphone and make sure the green light is on. And then the secretary will have a timer. It's a little buzzer that will go off when your time's up. Thank you.
Oh, supposed to be on. Thank you. As a parent of a high school student who takes his education seriously, which I feel like represents the majority of students, it seems very unfair that a small minority of students who are causing harm through bullying or intimidation are being allowed to disrupt the environment meant for learning. I seen the last board meeting on the news, and it was the first time I heard of a plausible solution to the issue, which I feel is very doable, and in speaking with other parents, they agree. Online school is a better option for kids with violent records, kids with multiple reports of bullying, and kids who are gang affiliated. It is only logical that you make the parents responsible for the behavior and the education of their children. The issue of negligent handling of bullying reports in the Canyons district is nothing new. There are countless families and even coverage from the news from over a year ago regarding these issues. With that being said, us parents have waited patiently and long enough for some change and, more importantly, enforcement of policies that will protect our kids and keep the learning environment safe. This is an issue that's growing out of control, and I'm wondering what the holdup is. What are you guys waiting for to make the changes to the policies that will keep our kids safe and keep the students causing harm out of our school buildings? Our kids deserve better, and only you have the power to bring that change about.
If we could please have no applause, that is our policy for patron comment. And we know you guys feel really passionate about that. That's why you're all here. So we do know that. Megan Martinez is next.
Good afternoon and good evening. I'd like to address policy 100.02, number 1, where it states the Canyons Board of Education recognize student welfare as its top priority and that it should be central to all decisions and actions of the board. We've seen that that is not the case in this situation. and you have your own written policy that you're not enforcing, and we would love to see those enforced to ensure that the safety of all students are considered in these cases.
Okay, thank you. The next patron is, and please, if I say your name wrong, please correct me when you come up here. Trivana, and I can't read the last name, sorry about that, but please just say it when you come up here.
Hi, I'm Trayvon English. Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I come to you with a heavy heart, burdened by a tragedy that should have never occurred. A child in the school was murdered by a peer, a bully with a documented history of aggressive behavior. The fact that this horrific incident could take place here is deeply concerning. This should never happen in this school or any school across this country. I grew up in Long Beach, California, a city that was tough for many kids. It's unusual for fights to escalate, and sometimes weapons were brought onto school grounds, but in those cases, swift action was taken. Students involved in such serious incidents were expelled. There was a clear expectation of safety, and those who posed a danger to others were removed from the environment. I believe that the same standards should apply here, and that this community, this state, deserves better. We are in Utah, a place where we take pride in our close-knit communities and our commitment to family values. It's a place where we care deeply about the safety and the well-being of our children. Yet this tragic event suggests that more needs to be done. While I'm not here to place blame solely on the shoulders of the school board, I do ask that you consider this perspective. These children are your children. It's your duty, your responsibility to do everything in your power to ensure their safety. We have lost a child, and no action can bring that child back. But what we can do is prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. It's critical to implement stricter measures when dealing with bullying and violent behavior, to take every threat seriously and to make clear that violence has no place in our schools. We owe this to the children who are here now and to who will come in the future. I was born here in Utah, and now, as a parent myself with a 1-year-old son, I find myself questioning whether this is a safe place to raise him. It shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't have to wonder if my child will be protected at school or whether the community will take a stand against dangerous behavior. I urge you all to act with the same determination and care that you would for your own kids. Let's make sure that no other family has to endure this kind of pain. Let's work together to build a safer, stronger, and more compassionate school environment for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. How about everyone who agrees with that could just raise your hands? Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person is Kaylin Oliphant.
Hello, board. Before I begin, I feel very embarrassed that I'm here on this subject because it doesn't even compare, not even a little bit. And I pay respect to you. And I'm grateful actually to see this kind of support. This is incredible. And so I hope the board recognizes that. So all my respect and love to you and your family. I'm here to represent all drill teams. My name is Kaylin Anzac Oliphant, and I am a dancer. I'm a choreographer, I'm a director, I'm a teacher. Most of the people that you've hired, and including all of the other districts in the state, have hired someone that I've taught. The current Cougar coach right now, I trained. I've trained dancers that have full ride scholarships every year to universities. They're on Broadway. They're in the top companies in this nation. I train the very best, and this is what I do for a living. I have been told that you are going to deny the drill teams to go to national competitions. In light of what is happening, this is why I feel a little embarrassed to be able to speak upon this, but I am concerned that the arts is being marginalized, and I'm confused as to why that would be. Nationals for drill is just as important as the incredible things that Director Haney just did. That is just as important to us as all of those beautiful things. And I want him to be able to come back here and say that we are a repeat national champion, which Corner Canyon was last year. We should be able to have the right to do that. Currently, right now in New York City is Alta High Dance Company. That was approved. They are there this entire week. They are not there for nationals. They are there for a fun trip. They are justifying it by taking classes at Steps or Broadway Dance Center. Some dancers will choose to take it. Some dancers will choose to take it serious. Some won't. By the way, the director of that company, I also trained. This is different. Nationals is different. This is not a fun vacation. This is not a vacation for the moms. This is serious business. What I'm asking for you is to take the arts seriously and to tell us what we need to do to provide that seriousness to you. Do you want me to fundraise? I'll get the money. Do you want me to provide for you why it's necessary, important, and valid? I'll do that. I've spent my life doing it, and I will spend the rest of my life doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brenda Robertson?
Hello, again, I can't even speak about this because I just learned about it and it's heartbreaking. So I do feel really silly talking about drill. However, my daughter has been a dancer since she was 3 years old. Just as my son was a basketball player starting in junior jazz at 5. I'm going to relate what's happening to drill to the only other experience that I know, which is basketball. My son played on Corner Canyon basketball on the varsity team up until last year when he graduated. All 4 years, Coach Lunt, who is amazing, took the boys on the most awesome tournaments and competitions that he felt necessary to take the team on. Some years that was up to 6 or 7. And after talking with the coaches, one of the coaches, not all of them, this morning to clarify, to make sure that I was in the right, only one of those competitions that we went to, which was in 2023, which was the national competition that was covered by a group of people who formed the competition, none of them had a pre-qualifier. None of those basketball competitions or tournaments had a pre-qualifying event to get them to there. They were either invited, like Section 7, which is the main recruiting tournament or competition for all basketball. If you want to go play basketball in college, you go to Section 7. That is invite only. There's no pre-qualifying. You don't have to win a state championship. It's just an invitation. We have been invited by a national competition to come back because we won a national title. I'm frustrated because I feel like if you all have a school-sanctioned sport, as drill is, in your district with many schools, you need to learn a little bit more about it and how it works. There's not one pre-qualifying event for this. Drill is now just being recruited like other sports are. BYU is now recruiting for drill. They recruit these girls, and the only way for these girls to get their name out there, we don't have max preps or anything like that like we have for basketball. They have to do these competitions. They have to go and put themselves on social media and advertise themselves and say, this is what our team won. This is what we did. This is why the colleges need to look at me. So just because your policy says, well, there's no pre-qualifying event and they went last year, we can't go, they can't go. I think you need to understand the program more before you're just denying it because of a written thing. And it needs to be changed. For all of your drill teams in all of your district, it's unfair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Brandon Robertson.
I echo the sentiment of the ladies. My heartfelt condolences to the Hamilton family. My heart aches for the children of the district and the school. My perspective is slightly different on the subject of drill team and participation of the girls in this national tournament. I am a drill team dad. I am a dance dad. And I want to see my little girl have the same opportunities that my son had in basketball to attend these amazing events that they have the opportunity to participate in. My son reaped the benefits of camaraderie, of leadership opportunities, and the ability to grow as a young man by traveling and taking on the responsibility of representing Corner Canyon High School as a student and an athlete. Now, that can be done locally. I absolutely agree with that. But when you're going onto a national stage, it is a privilege to represent our district and our schools and our families. And I would hope that the Corner Canyon drill team would continue to have that opportunity for these girls to be able to find opportunities to lead and develop their lives and enrich those around them. I appreciate the consideration of the board. I understand that you have a very difficult task and often wonderful task of looking after our kids in the school district. And I appreciate this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next person is Jason Maldonado.
I'd like to introduce my son, Ken Hamilton. We're pretty much all here, but we are sick and tired of waiting. It is absolutely ridiculous that we are waiting for action. We've been told, I take accountability to hold on, wait, we're doing our investigation. How long does it take to investigate a video? Honestly, it's ridiculous that we have kids that were involved in my son's death attending the school, any public school. And it's a good school starts at the top. If we don't have good leadership, we don't have a good school, period. Today, I'm asking that we get rid of the principal at Jordan High School. I am asking, superintendent, you resign. I am asking the president to resign. We are sick of it. We've waited, and we've waited. My son's murder has brought to light other people's issues that they've had in this district, and it's embarrassing to know that it's been going on. We've been lied to at the school from the top. And the only thing I could think of is it has to do with money. And if you guys are putting money before our kids' safety, you should be embarrassed.
Okay, thank you. The next person is Ashley Benz.
I also like to speak while standing beside my nephew. 2 weeks ago, I attended the board meeting here to discuss accountability and change regarding the murder of Keen. Superintendent closed the meeting with an apology stating that he takes full accountability. In that moment, I was hopeful that accountability would lead to real change in the district, something meaningful. Maybe something meaningful would happen to come from his words. In short, accountability means admitting that you made a mistake. But admitting that you made a mistake doesn't bring forth change. Admitting a mistake doesn't solve the problems that led to Keen's death. And I want to make this clear that this is not just about his murder. This is about this is about him being bullied since 6th grade, bullying that your district allowed. From the same kids that either rode in the car with his murderer or followed in the car behind.
to go kill my nephew. These kids are still attending school in this district, in your district. Why? Why are they still at school? Is it that hard to suspend or expel? Because what you're doing is empowering. So one of the girls that's in the video egging on the murder, she was just in a fight the other day at school. But why? I don't understand. So, you know, they're still walking the same hallways, still instigating and still fighting, but why? I don't understand. You made a mistake, superintendent, but what are you going to do about it? Why are your policies that you have in place not being enforced? Why are these accomplices to murder still at the school that these kids have to go to school with? So do you not think it's scary to be a friend of somebody who's been murdered by a gang member and have to face these kids every day in school? Because it is. So let me ask you again, Superintendent, where's the change? What is your plan? You talk about accountability, but we need action. We need protection for the students who are still here, walking into schools every day, wondering if they're going to be next. The students involved in Keen's murder should not be in the schools, period. Their presence is a threat to the safety and a reminder of violence that this district has allowed. That's Leon, that's Holly, that's Nancy, that's Andrew, that's Amber, that's Amanda, that's Christine, Karen, and the superintendent. A simple immediate step of action to remove these kids from school is just that. It's simple. They should not be given the privilege of continuing their education in a system that they have severely violated. This is not just about my family's grief anymore. It's about protecting the students who remain in the schools, and so that no other family has to go through what we've been through. So I stand here asking you not just for words, but for change, real actionable change, because there is no change. And your apology means nothing to us.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to move on to our consent agenda, and I will now take a motion to approve that.
I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda with items A, approval of minutes for September 17th, 2024, B, approval of minutes for October 1st, 2024, C, approval of hire and termination reports. I'd like to remove item D, approval of student overnight travel for discussion, and then approve item E, approval of purchasing bids, item F, approval of September financial reports, item G, approval of TSSP amendment for Canyon View Elementary, and item H, approval of TSSP amendment for East Midvale Elementary.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Mr. Edel, would you like to address pulling off that item?
Yeah. So I want to discuss kind of how this came to be and why this looks a little bit different tonight than it has in the past. So we've been looking over our student overnight travel policy in the policy committee for quite some time. And it's been hard to find that middle ground. So, I mean, we've had some emails and some people speak about kind of some of the uniqueness in some of our programs that make them maybe not quite fit the mold each time. So as we look at the policy and as we look at kind of the direction to go to in terms of our student overnight travel approvals, et cetera, the route we decided to go for the moment was to have them go to the board, as the board has always been the appeal authority, And then from administration, they'll give us some additional rationale as to what the committee is recommending. And then the board at that point will approve or deny the appeal requests. So to be clear, the recommendation isn't a pending action by the board. It's a recommendation by the appeals committee. In the past, what would happen is that would actually just be done at that point and wouldn't make it to the board. So by going through this process, it actually provides it with an opportunity for a full appeal and for a discussion by the board.
Okay, Mrs. Nybar.
Thank you. We are supposed to go by the agenda, but really, I just want my heart to go out to this family. And every time you've come to board meetings, if you stay around for closing comments, that's a lot of times when we're able to address. So, and I know we've pulled out in the hallway. Anyways, about what Mr. Edel just talked about, I unfortunately was not able to be at the last policy committee meeting as there was a family emergency and I had to go to the hospital. But I want to talk about process first, okay? So the first problem I have is I know it was decided that we're going to look at this policy in greater detail in the spring, but we have an issue because right now nearly every travel the process to approve it, almost every single one of two or one of one is going to the committee to look at and lots of times ends up in appeal. So that tells me we need to look at the policy a little better because that's a lot of time and resource for that committee to be meeting. And I know that's something Mr. Wilcox has talked about. McKay, he is in the back here, and I said that I may have him speak to that. So maybe we can do that at the end here. But I know a lot of people that are actually sitting on that committee are saying, yes, this policy isn't working very well because we have to meet all the time. And it shouldn't be that, 90% of every trip has to go through this amount of work in this appeal process. So I'd like to talk about that first off. We have the amount of $1,500 that any student athlete team cannot 2 years in a row get to that amount. So that means any trip planned that is that amount directly goes to the appeal committee, okay? The problem with that is travel costs. It's very difficult for teams to go anywhere and spend less than that. We have teams doing things like chartering buses and flying red eyes that is probably not in our best interest to be doing with minors because they're trying to keep the cost down. Also, we don't have anywhere in the policy stating that if it's fundraised, the reason why we have the financial restraint is so that we're not causing financial hardship on any families, but we don't have anywhere in the policy where it's different if it's fundraised. So I've literally had coaches call me and say, look, I could go as a club team, but then I can't utilize any of the funds that our programs raise. So then it really is a financial hardship for the parents participating. And so I want us as a board to think about that. Another part of the process, one thing that's really difficult for our coaches is they're submitting this travel and then they're not hearing any communication. So like the drill coach at Hillcrest, the drill coach at Corner Canyon, they heard nothing. They had to go on board docs to look and see. They're not getting any communication back. The golf coach at Corner Canyon called me. I was in Germany. It was 2 a.m. I took the call. He said, listen, I had this in appeals 4 months ago. I heard nothing until today and it's been denied. And I did talk to Tom Sherwood about it, and it was during summer and we had people out, because of summer, but we've got to do better. We need to communicate with these coaches. We need transparency. These coaches need that. They're trying to make travel plans for their teams. And as we know, we're trying to create positive experiences for these kids and help them with college and career ready. And these tournaments are where collegiate coaches are looking. The number of student athletes that have received scholarships after participating in these, if we were to have a list, it's it's amazing. And we don't want to be withholding that from our student athletes because that's where they get exposure. In fact, the interesting thing about that, and I know many of you could speak to this, is these tournaments are a much bigger deal, and the coaches go to those because it's one central location where they can see like so many teams instead of just go to the high school and see the two teams that are playing, or or one team, one drill team, whatever it may be. Okay, as far as when we look in board docs and we look at why the committee is recommending a denial, it states that, and I'm going to read it. This is why they're recommending a denial to us. It is request to exceed travel cap, which is the cap I talked to you about. This appeal presents the issue of whether the team participated in a qualifying event to qualify for a national competition exception. The whole state of Utah does not have a drill team that can qualify to a national competition because the way Utah does the drill competition, it cannot qualify. So for us to say that's the only way to grant an exception, that means we're saying no drill teams can ever do it. So that's a problem, obviously, because we want equity between student athlete groups. I don't want a family saying, man, we should have had our daughter do tumble because the cheer team goes every year. Well, because cheer's organized differently so they can qualify. But if you're on drill, too bad you can't, right? That we've got to make sure we're not doing that. The thing that was hard for me is this was the recommendation for Hillcrest and Corner Canyon. But the Corner Canyon drill coach sent me an email, and when she wrote her letter to appeal, on the very first page, she explained that no drill team can qualify. And so it felt like no one had read that. So that's important. The only way they can get invited to these national competitions is a letter of invitation. Not every drill team is given that letter. So it is by getting an invitation that is showing their level of where they're at. So I want to see Hillcrest be able to go and compete. I want to see Corner Canyon be able to go and compete. I want to look at the other student travel with the recommendation of denial. There's one more on this list. I think we just need to be so careful. We need to make sure we're providing opportunities for these kids. Lastly, as board members that represent these schools, it would be really great if we change our process and we are notified as board members. Director Haney does an awesome job at that, right? If there's any event happening at our school, he always contacts us board members so we know, so we're not the last to know. So when we start getting parent calls, the sad thing about this situation is that I wasn't the first to know. And as the board member representing, and those board members who represent Hillcrest, I had a crazy day today and a lot going on and I wasn't able to contact you. And I was thinking, I really hope they've opened board docs and notice it's their school. So we need to change that too. As board members, we need to be notified sooner when that's happening because it's hard when you have to hear it from a coach or a parent. So anyways, that's my comment.
Okay, Mrs. Tingy?
Thank you. I appreciate that this is something a process that we haven't done before, but at this point in time, our purpose in having this discussion is not to discuss our current policy, but to discuss the proposals that are before us and the recommendations. And board, we will have a lot of discussion about what changes need to happen to the policy, but for the moment, our policy is what it is, and it has built in there some kind of automatically granted exceptions. It has built in there a process for an appeal committee, and that's what I believe Mr. Edel was trying to explain, is that prior to approaching it this way, the appeal committee would kind of make that decision, and the purpose is to bring it before the board because it's board policy and only the board has authority to grant a waiver or an exception of our policy. And I'm totally in agreement that we need to take another look at this policy and with kind of more understanding. I mean, that's what happens, but for right now, that's just kind of more of an explanation of what my understanding is for the process here. So I think, I mean, I'll just make a general comment about student travel. It is fantastic opportunity, but it also is something that needs to be taken very seriously and carefully planned out and carefully approved according to policy. And so I think a lot of this feedback should be part of a different discussion when we bring the actual policy forward. So I think tonight, there are 3 travel requests that the appeal panel recommended denial because in their review of the matters, it did not kind of meet those built-in exceptions. And so that's why they brought it to the board so that we as a board could take the ultimate responsibility on making those decisions. And I will just, I guess, leave it at that for right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion, board? Okay, I will entertain a motion now to move forward with this travel. I don't know who raised their hand first. Andrew?
There's a tie.
Okay. Mr. Edel.
So with this motion, there will be discussion. So just so we're all good before we jump on me. Move that we deny the appeal for Alta Ballroom to Seattle and approve the following appeal requests. Alta Boys Lacrosse, Corner Canyon Girls Basketball, Corner Canyon Girls Drill, Hillcrest Girls Drill, Jordan Boys and Girls Basketball, Alta Girls Basketball, which I think had 2 of them, so both of them.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second to that?
I will second that motion.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion to that motion? Mrs. Nybar.
I thank you. I was going to make a very similar motion. The only difference is I would just like some discussion about the ballroom. So I'd like to open it up for discussion, and I would really like to first hear from Mr. Edel, since he made the motion, why you're wanting to deny the ballroom.
Yeah, so as I looked at I did thoroughly look at all of the requests on here. And so first, I guess I'll go to the other 2 that were denied because I think it's a little easier to speak to those. I think they're in a really unique situation, as they had pointed out, where this is essentially equivalent to a national invitational. And I believe they said that they were specifically invited to that. And so it puts it on par with the other competitions that we have here. The Alta Ballroom, they did have, as we look at that, they did meet, it was 1334 for their last trip. And then as you look at this is not a competition, but some classes. And so as I look at this request versus the others, I'm really kind of putting it into a nice to have trip versus a competitive trip.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edel. Mrs. Nybar.
Thank you. I was assuming that was probably why you were thinking that rationale, which makes sense. However, we do have the Alta Dance that are in New York, and they're doing a similar thing with the classes. And so what I would like to do, simply because I also think it's good for us to look into the issue further, I would like to make a substitute motion. My motion would be that we go ahead and approve everything except Alta Ballroom and ask to do a larger study as the appeal committee and have conversation with the ballroom coach, because I do not believe we're having good communication there. And I think it would be very helpful and beneficial to hear from them before it's just entirely closed down, because I believe in that. I believe we need to be working with our coaches. So substitute motion to hold that and get some communication from the ballroom coach, and then look at that for a future meeting. Do you want me to state it better, Mrs. Schill?
I think that's fine, but I don't know if we really need a motion for that, but, okay, is there a second to Holly's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a substitute motion with a first and second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Mrs. Tingy, the substitute, yeah.
Right. And I appreciate that, but I consider it not necessary because any program organization can reapply. And my thing about the Alta Ballroom, and I think we can just give some direction. I don't think we need to by motion. Give some direction to Mr. Sherwood to work with that team so that they can reapply. But as I read through that one, they asked for 5-day trip and only 1 day was spent dancing. The rest was sightseeing. And I just feel like we're an organization that we're not a tour organization. We are an educational, and while I know travel is educational experience, I just feel like it needs to kind of be refocused. And then I would also like to just mention on the Alta High Dance Company, yes, they're in New York right now, but they did not go last year. They met that every other year qualification. So I feel like we need to acknowledge that there are programs that have been very intentional about honoring our travel policy at this point. So I don't think the substitute motion is necessary. So.
Okay, Mrs. Nywar.
While I know that teams can reapply, I would really like to start tonight with communication. I totally agree with Mrs. Tingy. I do believe that the feedback should be you're just doing 1 day of that, and there's other, things going on in those other days. But I would like to start tonight with open communication with the coaches about why we're looking at a recommendation of approval or denial. So that I'd like that substitute motion to stand.
Okay, well, we do have a motion and a second for the substitute. So is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the substitute motion, say aye.
Aye.
Can we raise our hands? Because I don't know who said it. Okay, there's only 3 of us, so that fails. Now we go back to the original motion of Mr. Edel, and do you want to restate that really quickly to remind the board?
Yep, so the original motion is to deny the appeal request for Alta Ballroom and then approve the requests for Alta Boys Lacrosse, Corner Canyon Girls Basketball, Corner Canyon Girls Drill, Hillcrest High Girls Drill, Jordan High Boys and Girls Basketball, Alta High Girls Basketball, with both of their appeals requests.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion to that motion? Mrs. Tingy.
Yes, with those that you mentioned, there are some requests that were provided to us that did not require an exemption to policy. Are you considering those to be approved as well? You didn't list those.
That's my mistake. And then on my motion, I would like to approve all of the others that did not require an appeal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Toomey, for reminding us of that. Okay, any other discussion to that motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Now we are going on to new business, and policy is up first. And Jeff Christensen, Assistant Legal Counsel, will be presenting this.
Good evening, members of the board. We have 5 policies for policy update listed for a first reading. The first one is policy 100-02, Board of Education Ethics and Conduct Guidelines. In the Utah Employee and Public Officers Ethics Act, there is a new requirement for a special public officer, which includes a local school board member, to complete a disclosure statement as part of their responsibilities. As the policy is currently drafted, we list those guidelines for Board of Education ethical conduct, and now the policy will include this requirement as consistent with state statute. The next policy is the Board Audit Committee. We had the rule R277113 fiscal and auditing policies that was updated. And based on the update to that rule, we've included new language into the Board Audit Committee as outlined. The board president shall ensure that the members of the Board of Education serving on the audit committee are provided with training on requirements of internal audits, that those serving on this committee are listed on the website, as well as their name and contact information and a copy of the annual audit plan. And then the audit committee responsibilities are outlined as bulleted in the PowerPoint presentation: obtaining all audits, agreed upon procedures, engagements, financial reports, and providing an independent forum for internal auditors and contractors and other regulatory bodies to report findings of fraud, waste, abuse, noncompliance. The additional updates to the audit committee as are listed, and this is outlined through the board rule, particularly in the external and internal audit processes where they can, you go out for an RFP competitive process to hire both an external auditor as well as internal, consistent with the state procurement code. Board members that are serving on this committee will be listed and included with this update in the district's website. In our tax increment financing agreement policy, this is when we have a municipality approach the district to engage in a tax increment financing agreement, and we list in the policy criteria to be considered by the board in those agreements. We're adding an additional criteria to this policy. If the project has retail involved in the development of that project, the municipality must indicate the percentage of sales tax revenue it will contribute to the project. Our drug-free workplace policy. In the Utah Labor Code, there has been new language added for non-discrimination for medical cannabis use while employed by the district and prescription use. So if an employee is using medical cannabis and they have a card, if they were to occur or have an accident at work, based on our policy, any employee in an accident at work will be drug tested. In the event that drug test comes back positive, we can look to determine if they have a prescription, and we can work through our safe sensitive positions in the ADA process to address those issues with prescriptions. This now allows us to use that same process for those that use medical cannabis. And based on the state statute, we cannot discriminate and treat employees differently if they test positive for either prescription or other drug use. So we've added that non-discrimination element to the policy, and then we will work with our ESP and other employees. Should they test positive and have a medical cannabis card, we will work through the ADA process to address that. And we cannot discriminate against employees based on their use of medical cannabis. We made a few other edits for clarity for those that are employees if they're to use illegal drugs or alcohol prior to being on a district campus. If they were to test positive, then they would run the risk that we have in our policy, which is employee action and potential termination based on use of alcohol or illegal drugs. The final policy in this collection is our school community council policy. In the state statute, it has been allowed to conduct electronic elections. And initially in our policy, we prohibited that primarily because of the logistics of being able to conduct those elections. We've now just made a small modification in our policy to allow electronic elections to proceed, provided that the means and methods of conducting the election has been approved by the district. Meaning if they engage in that electronic process, they need to receive approval from the procedures we've outlined for those elections. All of these policies are for first reading and can answer any questions, but they'll come back for second reading, possible action at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, board, or comments on these policies? Oh, Mrs. Pedersen.
Thank you for clarifying what we're asking for in these particular policies. I know it's our policy to check our policies. Oh. We are consistently, I just want the community to understand that we are consistently going through policies and updating as legal changes have arisen or practice hasn't necessarily matched our policy. So I appreciate the fact that we get to review any changes that need to be made and continue to do so in our meetings every month. I was wondering if it's not included in the policy that if they want to do, if a school community council wants to do a electronic election, that they have a deadline that they need to submit it by, or is that something that the schools will be informed of if that be the case?
Yeah, I think we'll work through that through our internal procedures, whether that's laid out through an exhibit or otherwise. We haven't established that to my knowledge, but
Right.
we don't have anything that's
That sounds
required by
great.
statute. I think there is an election window. I don't see Susan. She may have stepped out,
Pop
but
in now.
if it's in the training materials, we'll have that available for schools.
Sounds great. I know that the feedback we've heard from the pilot that they did this year, that it tripled the participation of our community. So I feel like this is a very positive step in the right direction that allows more parents to be involved in
And
choosing their representation on the school community councils. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions, board? Okay, thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Policy Committee, for working on this, and thanks for the updates, Mr. Christensen. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the proposed calendars for 2025-26 school calendar, tentative approval for the 2026-2027, and then 2027-2028 school calendars. And this is the first reading by Steve Diamond. I know I lost it. Okay. And he is Director of Human Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I do want to express appreciation to our calendar committee and also to previous chairs of the committee, Sharice Hilton, as well as Floyd Stensrud, this is my 20th year serving on the committee, but this is the first time to chair. So just briefly, pursuant to the policy, there is a committee that works to be able to establish those based upon the guidelines that the board has presented. Those guidelines are in the policy and were recently revised in 2023. So with the calendar committee, we met most recently on the 9th of October. We have the final calendar for this coming year for consideration for the 25-26, a proposed calendar for the 26-27, and a tentative calendar for the 27-28. So looking at the first calendar for the 25-26, you'll notice that we do start the third Monday in August, as well as we have the 2 days in October, 3 days in November for Thanksgiving recess. We do have a full 2 weeks for winter recess, as well as a full week for April, ending on May 29th for the school year. For the 26-27 school year, Once again, we begin on August 17th, ending on May 28th. We have the 2 days in October on the 15th and 16th, November, the 25th, 26th, and 27th for Thanksgiving recess. Once again, we have 2 full weeks for winter recess. That doesn't always occur, just based upon how the calendar falls. And then also in April, we have a full week off for the first full week. Our 27-28 calendar, very similar. August 16th opening, closing or last day on the 26th of May. 2 days in October. Again, 2 full weeks in December, as well as a full week in April. We also have other dates spread in there for end of the semester, end of quarter for professional development, as well as for grading and teacher preparation. Brighton High School is currently still working on their calendar. There is a calendar that's available to you. The discussion that they have had recently is they're talking about, and they're still working with their school community council about if they could move one of their parent-teacher conference days a little earlier. Then what it would do is allow to align with the rest of the district. And so more families would have the same day off for teacher compensatory. Doesn't work for the 3rd trimester, but they're still getting feedback. They've gotten feedback from their teachers, but they have not gotten feedback from their school community council and are working on that. So hopefully in 2 weeks, I'll be able to share that additional information. Any questions I can answer?
Okay, thank you, board. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Hey, thank you so much. And thank you to the calendar committee. And I really appreciate you holding that meeting. And I know we had some good discussions also about the AB day, but I'm going to just wait until we start talking about schedules for that discussion.
There's AB, there's some other interesting concepts of trying to end first semester before winter recess. That has some positive, also has some negative. So there's just a lot of conversation we need to have and seek feedback to seek. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is strategic plan focus group report for human-centered supports. And Dr. Brian McGill, Director of Student Services, will present this.
Good evening, school board members. So as tasked by Dr. Robbins, I oversee and facilitate our human-centered supports strategic plan pillar for the district. We've now been into motion about 2.5 years. So we've held several meetings. We try to meet once a month throughout the year. And just as a reminder for review, I've provided the impact statement that all students, families, and employees will feel safe, supported, and have a sense of belonging within their school communities. If you take a look at both initiatives, again, a big emphasis is on the physical, social, and psychological safety of students and staff. Success criteria is written forward as well, and I'll share some of the ways that we're measuring some of that data. So as you take a look at the Diamond Framework, our 4 priority areas, again, in human-centered supports, was the Thrive Time curriculum, which is our Tier 1 prevention curriculum that we rolled out this year in full depth, as well as the High School Leadership Academy, which has provided an opportunity for about 60 to 70 high school students at each high school to be a part of a leadership training and camp that we provided for them. And we've intertwined the Thrive Time core responsibilities and the Canyons of the Portrait Scholar into those workshops. Student wellness is a big portion of what we do, looking at the mental health and welfare of kids across the district, as well as employee wellness. And Steve Diamond and our HR team does a great job with that. And then as a big topic that's been discussed tonight, we take a look at behavioral supports needed in the schools. And I've got some data that we'll walk through tonight as well on that. So first off, our Thrive Time, just a quick update there. We provided manuals and resources to all of our schools at elementary and middle school, K-8. We also provided all of our principals with parent template letters so they could send that out. The nice thing about that is it has a parent reinforcement component. So if parents want to enforce those same practices, philosophies, and kind of have their own spin, if you will, on the topic that's being presented, like respecting self and others. Then that could be something that parents do with their children at home. Integrating the Dignity Index, which is language and a framework that's revolved around respecting self and others in language and talk when there's conflict or difference of opinion, going about things in a healthy manner versus unhealthy manner, and helping our students and staff come to learn what that Dignity Index is. So we're integrating that into the High School Leadership Academy, as well as incorporating that into some of our norms for some of our meetings with employees. Fielding response calls as well for Thrive Time. So as teachers come across things in lessons that need to be updated, or they just have questions, concerns, we're fielding those calls and responses. And then our intended outcomes, again, looking at the preventative upfront side of Thrive Time, is our emphasis on trying to provide a positive school culture and climate, increased attendance and engagement in school, increase the PBIS systems in our schools, and then decrease our discipline referrals, which again, we'll speak to some of the data on that tonight. And it takes about, most evidence-based platforms and programs, it takes about 3 to 5 years to see growth and benefit and gain from implementing a full-wide curriculum, which again, we've just rolled out in full this year. I want to commend Jen Gerard, our nursing specialist, for kind of taking the lead and initiative and having the vision for creating a telehealth pilot. So one of the things that we've done in 17 of our high-need schools in the Hillcrest and Jordan feeders, she had a vision for creating telehealth for our students, and we've actually been able to put that into motion. So it was brought before our committee last spring, and we're partnering with IHC, and students can actually get all of those services covered in school. So if kids have colds, they have COVID, they have a mouth infection, they've got an upset stomach, they can approach their nurse, and through parent consent and parent permission, they can actually use a telehealth camera with some pretty high-level technology to be able to diagnose and detect certain conditions that a student may have. We have 51 insurances that are covered, and they're continuing to add to that, again, to support all of our students. And then those without insurance, it's a $69 copay. Nice thing is students and families that have been in financial need, IHC has actually been stepping up and helping with that so that students can get the supports that they need. And then Jen, as I mentioned, is also taking on the onus of helping all of our employees across the entire district. I asked her before the messaging went out, I'm like, are you sure you want to take this on? We have 4,000 plus employees. And she's like, yep, they just need to schedule a date and time to come see me, and we'll get them set up with telehealth services. So today we've had 14 students served. We just launched this in full about 3 weeks ago, getting everything into place. 12 of those students, 0 days missed, again, which is one of our goals, right? Retaining students in school. And then you can see, 1.5 day missed and 1 day missed by a student each there. As it relates to student wellness, one of the things that we have adopted over the last few years is, and Representative Eliason has been a big push at our legislature for this, but providing mental health screening opportunities for our students. We know that that's a major concern, and a concern that has been and continues to be on the rise for all of our youth. And you can see there, looking at the mental health screening nights, 2021, we had 108. We did 4 sessions. 73 the following 4 sessions, 86 4 sessions. And then last year we had 139. We offered 7 sessions, so we actually expanded the number of offerings. And then we kept that same number of offerings this year at 7, and we had 22 show up for our first set. So 428 students overall have been served in our mental health screening nights. We find that generally about half of those students are at high risk, and so we can actually get those supports and services and wraparound supports for kids and parents immediately. And then I've just listed the schedule up there where we're providing those. We've been looked to as the gold standard as far as the process and the practices and how we're running those evenings. So we've gotten a lot of calls and from other districts just in terms of how we've set that up and how we're going about supporting kids and parents. Student wellness, again, I mentioned the high school academy. So we just had our first session on the 1st. We had an excellent turnout of students from all of our schools. Big shout out to all of our advisors at the schools. So each of the groups of 60 to 70 students has about 2 to 3 advisors at each high school that oversee the process back at their, their local level. We had Lance Allred as our keynote speaker. He's the first deaf player to play in the NBA. And his message was awesome, really resonated with the kids. Kids were highly engaged. He talked about life is all about how you respond in the face of adversity and some of the resilience and challenges that he's had to overcome and how he went about approaching those. We also talked about school values, did some breakout sessions on that as they create an action plan for their school. And like I said, we had an excellent student turnout. We're doing 4 of those this year. The first of those was bringing them all together at Crescent View. The second and third workshops are actually going to be at the local level with the advisors, and we're going to do some push-in stuff at the school. And then the fourth one, we're going to bring all the kids back and do kind of a collaborative closure as part of that. And as I mentioned, we're integrating the Dignity Index as part of those workshops so our students can learn about the language revolving that too. Student wellness, as we look at interventions, when students end up violating our levels of behavior, we have a level system of 1 through 5, 1 being the lower level behaviors, 5 being on the upper end. 4 and 5 generally are looking at your safe school violations. We also look at level 3, behavioral infractions that are repeat offenses or habitual, and principals and APs can also refer as it relates to that. District support team generally serves students that have the infractions at the level 2, level 3 level, and then DCMT are students at the level 4, level 5 level. Like I said, level 3 repeats as well. As you take a look at the data there, you can see that it's pretty significant in terms of the rise of behaviors in school. We've already in the first 6 weeks of this school year, we've had 95 cases that we've had to screen and review, which is 15 more total than we had all of 21-22. I've got some data in here showing some visuals, so I'll jump to that here in just a second. People are asking why. Well, there's a lot of variables, I think, as to why. One, we've got COVID. We have an election cycle year, which generally you see more divide. But 2 components that I've added in this year to help with screening is harassment towards protected classes. So any racially targeted language, verbal harassment, symbol targeting is an automatic DCMT referral. So our team and committee is looking at that. And then the second part to that is unsafe physical and or psychological environments that students are creating. That's also another layer and level that we're screening through DCMT. I take all of the call and consultant plans with all of our principals and assistant principals. I'm getting about 30 to 40 calls weekly. Each of those phone calls is about anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, trying to help our administrators walk through all the investigative supports that they need and making sure that we're following proper steps. If you take a look at the visuals, you can see the total number of cases. Again, this is the 21-22 school year. We had 85 cases total. It's broken down by level as well as by school. 22-23, we had 143 total cases. 23-24, 140, so pretty level between both of those 2 years. And this year, like I said, we're already at 95 cases the first 6 weeks of school. Here's the really telling story about the number of cases that were potentially projected to screen this year. It's gone up significantly. So I took the 95 and I just added that, projected it out throughout the course of the year. We're looking at about 500 cases, give or take, which is up about 5 times, what it's been in years past. And again, people may be asking why. Again, we're screening for, like I said, those 2 indicators. And House Bill 347 that passed this last session does ask schools to take a look at learning environments and ensuring safety if students are creating an unsafe environment or disrupting the classroom, time and time again. So we're reviewing all of those cases. Again, I also did a comparison just looking at cases the first 6 weeks of school. So part of the reason why the total annual cases is so high is every year that we've gone through, it's a compounded measure, right? So you've got cases that roll over that we're reviewing on top of new cases. And so the caseload has been growing very significantly at a very rapid pace. My considerations for this, being the director that's overseeing this, but also trying to do the job of being the director of student services and overseeing all the mental health supports for the district. I'll be honest, I feel like I've been doing 2 full-time jobs since the start of school. The school impact, you know, through ESSER's loss of monies, we pulled our check and connect mentor positions, the secondary level, and we just implemented Thrive Time, like I said, our preventative tier 1 measure for behaviors, but it takes 3 to 5 years for that growth impact cycle to really take shape. What's happening is you've got this tri-level, you know, component happening where our schools at the school level are seeing behaviors and it's impacting them. They're feeling overtaxed, overworked, as they're seeing, you know, high significant rises in behavior. And now we're starting to see that impacting our district systems, our processes, the case volume, that sort of thing. A next layer to that above district capacity is also looking at our capacity for alternative placement programs, such as Youth Academy. We added a 4th unit last year. Our high school here at the YA here on site is already at capacity. So as new cases come through and we look at alternative placement, that also needs to be, I think, at the forefront and on the mindset of us and our decision-making going forward. So the recommendation I have, I've been talking with Dr. Robbins as well as Dr. Robinson about having a full-time DCMT administrator actually oversee our district case management team. And what that potential role could look like is an administrator that could actually help with investigations and provide formal training and professional development for our principals and APs across the district. Provide administrative investigating consulting and coaching. So when those principals and APs have questions on cases, they can certainly call and get guidance. I think it also would allow for an additional layer of parent due process in these cases. Oversee the new cases, the progress monitoring cases, facilitate the meetings weekly, which we've had to extend our meeting time. So I'll be back here tomorrow at 7 a.m. running our high school DCMT meeting, and we have 15 cases that we're reviewing tomorrow morning. So we've had to extend those meeting times. Davis District, I know that there's been some comment about us trying to move in the direction of what they have done as of recently and some of the steps and measures that they've taken. I'll point out, you know, having gone to the Dignity Leadership Symposium that they provided, I've got 2 pages of copious notes. One of the things that I can say is we've built into our DCMT screening this year, we've added in all the elements that they were encouraged to add in. But they also hired quite a bit of staff to help support the process, and that's 10 administrators to help with investigations. They hired 4 social workers to help with wraparound services for students and parents that come through DCMT, so that we're supporting both the respondent as well as the complainant, right? The victim and the potential or prospective perpetrator, making sure that there's consequences, accountability, but also supports for the victim that might be involved in on that process. And then Davis District, as well as many of our other districts, their directors aren't overseeing the district case management team. They actually have officers that are hired to do this very job and work that I've been taking on. Employee wellness, this is the last initiative. Steve Diamond's done a phenomenal job pushing forward at a very expedited, fast pace of getting more capacity for our employees to be able to take their kids for childcare services. So as you can see up there, Corner Canyon has 19 that they're serving right now, which is in addition to the Jordan program we had last year. And we've also doubled the numbers in the Jordan program. Future planning, looking to add potentially at Hillcrest and then potentially at Alta in Brighton. And I think I sent you guys some documents in terms of just going through more specifics on that as far as future planning. And then our Employee Wellness Center Clinic. It's in long-term planning committee right now. I think telehealth is a good, bridge for our employees right now until we get to that point. But we have had a lot of discussion about creating a wellness clinic for our employees across the district to help with retention and attendance. So that's pretty much all I got. I've got the October agenda of all the things that we covered last Friday through March. And then the November agenda of some of the things we're going to be taking a look at: employee satisfaction data, safe UT data, looking at annual comparisons on tips and chats that come through, mental health screening nights, doing an update on that, and then just our annual report and student wellness services, all the services that we provide across the district. So questions, comments, input? Yeah, Holly.
Okay, Mrs. Nybar.
Thank you. First off, I want to say thank you to Dr. McGill for presenting this. I think you've so accurately portrayed what we're facing. I want to just take a moment when we're talking about school safety. To everyone in this room, I just want to say, I see you. I hear you. I just want to say that, and there'll be more in closing comments. So when we look at the caseload volume increase, Dr. McGill, you've done a very good job of demonstrating you hate to use the word epidemic, but this is at a rapidly increasing rate. And for everyone here and the general public that are watching, I would really like for you to go over, because I don't think everyone knows, please talk about the alternative placement issues we have. Before you do that, I just want to emphasize how we have state law that we need to educate these children, right? Regardless of the infractions. So can you go over the alternative placements we have right now? Because I have some questions about it.
Yeah. So when we have kids that come before DCMT, we have Youth Academy that's an option. We've got 4 different units. We have a unit at Glacier Hills for elementary. We've got an Eastmont unit, a unit at Diamond Ridge for our high school. And then on site, we started a year ago that I'm supervising and overseeing here at the district, is our Youth Academy for our kids with the significant safe school violations. They're housed here right across from my office, and one of our portables is very secure. So that's one option that we have. We have home and hospital, which can be done either via in-person, or we can do via Zoom, or push into the kids' homes if need be. We've got that as an option through Youth Academy, but we also have just our general home and hospital education at home. The Youth Academy program, we've seen a tremendous amount of success with. But as I talked about, kind of those 3 layered tiers of schools seeing behaviors, now our district systems being taxed, that next level or layer is going to be, we have to ensure we have the proper alternative placement supports in place to be able to place kids.
Thank you. When you talk about the high school, how many students do we have in that program?
So if you include Diamond Ridge and the YA unit here, we're probably looking upwards of like 25 to 30 students total.
And then how much staff do we have to support that?
So we have 2 teachers, 3 units for high school, and then we have an educational therapist that serves within those units as well. And then we usually have like a behavioral aide in the class. So.
And then who oversees the case management side of it?
So the case management side here at YDCMT, I oversee that with my team. At each of the different other levels, the principals oversee that. So.
And how much time would you say that you spend on that?
On Youth Academy?
Yes.
Depends on the day and depends on the variability of behaviors out there in the portable. We do have to conduct searches on all the kids every day, and oftentimes have to investigate things as they come up. But it's hard to put a number to it because it's a varying degree dependent upon the day, the week, what's happening. But yeah, I'm providing oversight to that as well as all of these cases, and then trying to do my job of what I was hired to do, and that's to oversee the mental health supports and the wellness staff across all the schools. So,
can you go back to that slide where you're talking about suggestions for hiring?
Yeah, recommendations.
The full-time DCMT administrator. Can you go over that a little more specifically?
Sure. So my ideal vision for this, if you had an individual that's focused on this, first and foremost, I'm spending probably 80% of my week just on DCMT alone. Between call consult plans, taking those phone calls, like I was in a DCMT meeting at one of our schools in Midvale today, And I had 4 phone calls in 45 minutes on varying things that principals needed guidance with, right?
Sorry, real quick, for the group, can you just explain what DCMT stands
Yeah,
for? I
it's
just
district-
realized they probably don't.
Sure. Yeah, it's district case management team. So when students hit a behavioral infraction of level 4 or level 5, which are your very significant behaviors or safe school behaviors, it goes before a panel committee, which is facilitated by myself at the high school level, BJ Weller at the middle school level, and then Chancey Lauren at the elementary level. So there is a lot of administration training and consulting and coaching that goes alongside. If you have a threat in a particular situation, we have to ensure that a CSTAG is done, and then dependent upon the outcome of the CSTAG may determine placement. If you've got a kid in special education, we need to make sure we're doing a manifestation determination and ensuring, you know, federal rights and supports for students and parents for kids in special education. There's a lot of technical detail that goes into investigating a lot of these issues, and it does take time to do it and to do it right. So there's that piece of it. The parent due process piece. What I would envision with this position is if a student gets referred to DCMT, this individual could actually do some pre-coaching and some clarifying and allow the students and parents an additional opportunity beyond the school to provide any information, concerns, issues, get questions answered about the DCMT process before the actual case goes to review by the committee. And then there's the actual case management for new cases. So like tomorrow, we've got 5 new high school cases. We've got 9 reviews that we're doing that are active, ongoing cases. Each of those cases require notification home, notification to the school, and then oftentimes on Thursdays and Fridays, those are scheduled fully with doing reinstatement meetings, orientations for youth academy, orientations for home and hospital. So I just know my Thursdays and Fridays, like I'm either rescheduling, canceling, having to adjust things around because we have to accommodate the parents and the school when they can meet, and so, you know, just trying to make sure that we're taking care of that. And then facilitating the meetings, you know, as I said, like we're having to extend time. So tomorrow we'll meet for probably 5 hours collectively just on all the cases. So those are some things that I think this position could lend itself to, as well as just the quality of investigations and our peer court program, which is another intervention-based program that Sharice Hilton runs, has done a phenomenal job with. I was actually just talking with her, and she gave me some numbers on peer court referrals. These are for level 2, level 3, much like our DST, district support team. And she's seen the same trajectory, not in terms of the volume, but in terms of the same increase, you know, over the last 4 years for referrals to peer court.
So I have a question, a follow-up question with that. So you've done a great job of explaining all the amount of work, the incredible amount of work that goes into doing this and the amount of time. What is the waiting time period when you have a case like this? I was just talking to an assistant principal at one of the high schools I represent, and he was informing me how sometimes we have students coming from other districts and they've got a really long history.
Yeah.
And we're concerned about how do we have the supports in place to keep the other students in the school safe, right? And he was explaining that oftentimes, because this requires a lot of work, what's happening is we're putting people on like home and hospice just because we're trying to keep everyone safe, but we still have to go through all of this.
Yeah, so what happens is if students have safe school violations in another district, I work with those district student services directors to get their safe school report. And we actually hold and mirror the same recommendations that they've made. So if it's a matter of a student not being able to be in school for, you know, a semester or a full year due to something that happened, we place them in youth academy or we do a home and hospital or some kind of alternative placement. So,
Okay.
and then we do the same for our kids that are opting to go elsewhere as well. So we exchange that information to provide the best layer of safety at the school.
And then a last question. Do you feel it would be a benefit? I know there's some districts that have like a correctional high school that's at a larger level than what we do with surveillance and things like that. Do you feel like we're at that level yet?
Well, I think the program we have here on site is really kind of serving that very purpose.
Yes.
And we've only had 1 year that we've been operating. And the fact that we've been doing it for 1 year, we're starting our second year and we're at full capacity. Again, as I talked about those three different layers, schools are feeling it. Now our systems at the district level are feeling it, and we're gonna have to have places to be able to place students if we're screening the number of cases that we're screening to keep our schools safe. And Rick knows this and McKay knows this, like, the safety is always going to come first and foremost to me. I mean, I've spent 27 years as an educator, and
We cannot comment, the public cannot comment during our presentations.
well, as I mentioned in the presentation, if they're at a level 4 or level 5, they'll get referred to district case management team. We review the case. I'd have to pull the data on it. I can say that Hillcrest and Jordan, we generally have the most cases come through, but
What? Yeah, you do not need to answer from the public, Ryan. You're presenting to the board right now.
With knives and guns.
Numbers don't lie, you guys. Numbers don't lie.
We're pissed. We are pissed.
Need answers.
Be quiet. Everybody hurry up and be quiet so nobody knows anything. It's a bunch of crap. That's why we asked for your resignation, Ms. President.
Just respectfully, like if it was one of your kids or maybe your friend's kids, or I just can't help but think that the situation would have been kind of big. Right? Not your kid, not your neighbor's kid, not your friend's kid. And so. It's really rude how you're rolling your eyes while speaking. Yeah, you are.
We're in
really
public.
unprofessional.
You work for us. Remember that.
We're homeowners.
You work for us.
You're not to want attitude, very good. You, President, Mr. President, your whole body language is disgusting. It is, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm a nice woman. Everyone in this room knows I'm a nice woman. But the multiple times I have been here, I have seen you roll your eyes. It's disgusting. Like, you shouldn't be embarrassed.
You shouldn't be in that position.
That's right. You shouldn't be.
You're not a good leader.
That's right. You shouldn't
Not
be.
be in that position.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn the meeting now.